Starfield's new $10 DLC that Bethesda, for some reason, is trying desperately to make people believe was not an actual DLC, that it's just a big patch or something like that. I don't remember the last time I had to pay $10 for a patch in the game, and the game worked without the patch. Interesting approach, Bethesda, I guess. But in any case, it's over. No one likes it. Most people absolutely despise it and hate it. I personally think it's one of the most worst stories ever actually told in human history. I mean, seriously, you cannot fail at everything, and yet Bethesda managed to do exactly that. It's honestly astonishing how poor Bethesda is at decision making in general at this point. Every decision that they do turns to shit. Everything that they touch turns to poop. It is a never-ending story of disappointment. No wonder Todd Howard removed his name from Starfield, because even he knew that there is no saving this atrocity. And Emil Pagolarino is probably gonna get a raise for a job well done. Man, I wish I could just, keep falling backward up the ladder somehow.
You had a ship in Mass Effect. You had a ship in Knights of the Republic 1 and 2. All four of the Mass Effect games had ships, and not a single person ever made a complaint about how there was no ship combat, no man.
Wow, whoever this is, they're working really hard for, the stupid awards. Lead.
Manual landing, no manual takeoff.
That is indeed somebody using games from 20 years ago to defend Starfield, the technical state of Starfield here in 2026. Just mind-boggling stuff. When we're discussing Starfield, it's really important to understand.
To be absolutely fair, if you're gonna defend Starfield on any level currently, it's not like you can't afford not to lie at this point, or be extremely stupid and disingenuous. Then you have no chance to defend it if you're not gonna lower yourself to that level.
And that the divisiveness that's associated with this game comes from the content within. It shows a Bethesda that right now, a lot of people, it's just not clicking, especially when you have the RPG genre, many different developers, Warhorse Studios, Larian, doing laps around Bethesda in many regards, from the technical aspect to the writing aspect, and it's things that we're just waiting. We're waiting for Bethesda to step up and evolve, and that just has not happened, and that skepticism that's associated with Starfield is carrying over to the Elder Scrolls 6, and even with the new Terran Armada expansion and the new update that came, the free one, free lanes, it really hasn't changed opinions about Starfield. Still extremely divisive. It's not like a Cyberpunk 2.0 moment, and yeah, Starfield may not be having a 2.0 update per se, but this was definitely a major moment for this game, and still, opinions are split.
Oh, this was supposed to be a DLC. But Bethesda understood that nothing that they will ever make is going to actually be good, so they didn't try. This whole DLC, if you actually have good items, good gear and whatnot, can be finished probably in less than 2 hours, because the whole DLC is 3 main quests and like 4 Radiant quests. That's it. If you just run fast and kill opponents fast, you can probably do it in less. You can probably do this thing in an hour, honestly, because there's nothing. This thing is, Bethesda has a history of poor DLCs. The Wanted DLC that added bounty hunts to the game was 30 minutes of gameplay for $5 or $10. This is 1 hour for $10. Bethesda is just legitimately lowering the bar every single chance they get.
Still, though, in recent weeks, we've heard from other, Bethesda employees. This was from one of the composers that's worked with Bethesda for a long.
Oh, and by the way, in the newest DLC, every single character of note is a woman. And all of them are women of color most of the time. It's beautiful.
Long time. Inon Zur, he said, when Starfield released, people weren't ready for it. It will eventually become legendary, which I don't think so, especially when we're talking, space games and such. Just many other space experiences, I think, does.
I haven't talked about this, but No Man's Sky once again got a new update, and this time the update is called let's see if Nintendo sues us, because Nintendo really likes suing anyone who has anything similar to Pokemon, because that's what they added. Pokemon. Even on paper, the worst update from No Man's Sky completely eclipses anything that Bethesda can offer in the modern day. And by the way, I'm saying on paper because it's not a bad update, but on paper it doesn't sound really good that an update that you just did for a space game is Pokemon based. Doesn't really jive, you know what I'm saying? It's still good. It's still really good, but on paper it just sounds really strange if you don't know what's happening.
The whole, you explore the giant universe thing a lot better than, Starfield. But if we're talking story, like RPG, even Mass Effect, so I'm not sure where Starfield will land in that territory, but I don't think it's going to be considered legendary. This is just an opinion that we keep hearing from Bethesda developers, in which they are absolutely in love with everything about this game, and then you see the online opinion, and
I'm pretty sure at Bethesda, if you say anything negative about Bethesda, you get fired.
It is really split. And look, you can say that some people, some detractors online are that's how they are about Bethesda, and they don't actually play these games. Sure. But then you can go look at the Steam reviews for Starfield, and it's almost 50-50 split in terms of positive versus negative reviews. Not exactly great for a developer, especially a AAA developer of this scale, in which, the Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be the most highly anticipated game whenever it comes about in the next couple of years. But yeah, Shattered Space, it was the same thing. This was a couple of years ago, in which we heard from the design director, Emil Pagliarulo. He was
the absolute GOAT, boys! The GOAT! He has been ruining Bethesda writing for a long time now. And he ain't stopping. He ain't stopping. He's probably getting a raise or 5. It's gonna be beautiful.
Defending it after there was just so much anger with the quality of this that expansion. I'm also very proud of Shattered Space. We all are, and that's why there's been a lot of doubts about, is Bethesda listening to the criticism. So there has been a massive gap between Shattered Space.
Yes, the unironic answer to that is yes, by the way, because when Starfield came out and everyone called it slop, Bethesda listened and they made Shattered Space. And they doubled down on everything people did not like. They doubled down. Yes. They literally doubled down on every single criticism that people made. Because Bethesda is on record saying that the people are stupid. And my God, maybe I didn't remember which Middle Eastern country dictator or supreme head of state said that, but he was right. The people are stupid. But not in this case, though. Not in this case. Bethesda's stupider than any people ever could be. So they doubled down on Shattered Space. And Terran Armada is just quadrupling down on all the bad things and dialing it up to 100. Check out my Terran Armada review, because by the way, I have the only review of Terran Armada on YouTube because no one else is reviewing it. You cannot find a story review of Terran Armada anywhere.
Space and this new expansion of Terran Armada. And now, though, Terran Armada is out, and opinions they're up in the air. So I'm planning probably to have my own review of this. I've played this extensively. I'm just going to come out and say I'm not really all that impressed by it. There's definitely some very real improvements to Starfield, and if you enjoyed the base game, you're going to enjoy this more. If you did not enjoy Starfield, this isn't going to be changing minds like with what we've seen with like No Man's Sky over the years, or Cyberpunk, or any of these other video game comebacks. And I think Todd Howard was right for it. You saw in multiple interviews him trying to say this isn't a 2.0 update, this isn't like a massive ever change, we're not changing this game drastically, and it isn't doing that.
The Starfield defenders who lie typically about what's happening, and by the way, these defenders, they're not many, but they're very fun. Every single bad modern game in the last 5 years that has been released has this. They have some person who scores extremely poorly on the average IQ distribution scale, Beyond poorly, in fact. I mean, we're talking about air fryers and toaster ovens outdoing in intelligence. There's always someone saying, oh, Starfield's actually good. If you just don't listen to the haters, it's really good. You have this happening with, by the way, Borderlands 4. Borderlands 4 is an amazing game if you just don't listen to the haters. You have this happening with Assassin's Creed Shadows, Avowed, the Outer Worlds 2. Every single one of these piss poor games. You even still have, by the way, you can still even find this to this day, talking about things like Concord, for God's sakes, the original one, not High Guard and Marathon, but Concord, the original Concord. You still can find people actually in discussions saying, well, Concord is actually really good. It's just the hate, the unwarranted, out of nowhere hate, because obviously everyone just decided that Concord needs to fail for no reason. Destroyed it. No, and every game has these defenders. And Starfield also has these defenders. You're gonna have people who say, oh, no, it's actually a really good... No, it's a lie. You just have these strange people who, for some reason, are trying to literally waste their life trying to scream into the void angrily at the night sky and say, oh, Concord was good. Oh, Starfield was good. 76 is a good game now. Disgusting.
But it kind of feels like it may have attempted it at least a little bit, and they just said it really isn't worth it. And in all honesty, though, if you were really going to transform and change Starfield into this game that everybody absolutely loves, you would have had to have spent years in terms of development, because the foundation would have had to totally been transformed. But right now, Terran Armada, 47% of positive reviews based on just on...
That's, by the way, the main baddie, a black woman. Again, everything in Terran Armada is a woman. The scientist, the everything.
Under 500 user reviews, and here's a positive one. I feel a bit mixed about Terran Armada, but it was mostly just...
Has to be money laundering at this point, through.
Okay. Has to be money laundering at this point. And also, the 0 hours is just a thing that happens with DLCs. This doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah.
If for some reason Steam doesn't capture the actual hours when you play a DLC or something along those lines. More of the same, repeatedly doing the same missions with the same exact cookie cutter layout with the same entities. Wish Steam had a mixed review option. If you enjoyed the base Starfield experiences, chances you'll enjoy this. No French voice acting for the DLC of a game advertised as translated. Apparently going to Anchor Point before playing Terran Armada bugs the DLC, which I thought Free Lanes was a separate free update I did before attempting this DLC. The second emission of this DLC, Into the Void, causes it to, when you enter Anchor Point Space Station, so typical Bethesda bugs. Buggy, Terran Army crashed the game, unplayable. Cool setting, guns and armor, bad story and gameplay. It's literally the same thing over and over again. Very sad, and I think you kind of get the
guns are not cool. The first new gun you are introduced in Terran Armada has its recoil down for some reason. Because, well, it's not some reason. It's called incompetence, to be honest.
It's really the same thing that we've been seeing with Bethesda for the last decade. The same criticisms and really the same praises. But it does need to be mentioned, a lot of people were looking out for this moment for Starfield. That is very much seen with the player count. Right now it hit a peak of 30,000 players.
Yeah, by the way, this DLC, even though it was advertised less, about a completely nonsensical, no one honestly cares subject, it is actually showing better numbers than Shattered Space did. Even though Shattered Space is technically way more better than this, which is hilarious, but it's true. So it's actually amazing that the numbers are here. And I actually wait, I'm gonna show you the numbers. Starfield, Steam DB, because I wanted to see the fall off, because it is Monday Fun Day. Well, actually, it's Tuesday Oozday, but Monday Fun Day passed. And keep in mind, again, the big days are Friday, Sunday, Saturday, and there, I got it. I'm gonna change the screen so you can see it. There we go. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, see? This. Look at this. Again, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays are the big big bazingas, right? The 30k, by the way, 30k top players on a Sunday would seem probably reasonable for most games, but keep in mind this is 30k from 330 is 9.3 player attention. Now, granted, typically, if you look at whatever Starfield does, they have, this is 3k right there on a Thursday. That is less than 1%. That is less than 1%, boys. So I mean, this is technically ginumbus, the official. That is the official category of these things, ginumbus. Okay. So, but now it's 22k, and it's just gonna go lower and lower because obviously this is not gonna last. I'm honestly amazed it got this far, but now I mean, this is going to die faster than Marathon, and Marathon this week is going to hit below 20k. Most likely, in the next 2 days, Marathon is going to hit below 20k peak concurrent players, which is going to pretty much make it unkinda playable because it's going to imply matchmaking issues. So, good luck with that, Marathon.
Do this, Max. That is like the biggest moment this game has had since it released. Like even once Shattered Space released, I think that was the peak. It peaked at like 22,000 players. So this is a massive moment for this experience. And some people are arguing, is this going to change things?
No.
Is it going to become legendary? I don't really think so. I wouldn't be surprised if this trails off, but only time will tell. It has been said, though, as on other platforms like Xbox, the player count has jumped nearly 200,000. So yeah.
Bruv, what do you mean the player count has jumped 200%? You understand from 3k to 300 to 30k, that is a jump of literally 1,000%, right? So the jump on Xbox by 200% is not nothing. You understand that, right? So anyone who says this, lying.
Yes, this was a big moment. A lot of people paying attention and hearing about all the new features, all the new content, and they wanted to check it out.
Also, this 200 player increase probably means from maybe 70 players, now there's 140 players. That's what this means.
But again, it's just there's so many different mixed opinions going around surrounding this game right now, and it does feel like the overall.
By the way, I absolutely love how all of these lying outlets do the same thing. Starfield player count up 200%. It's big, it's coming back. You better download it and play it. No, this is lies. They did this last time. I think it was like 2 months ago, maybe, with Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. They were running the same headlines. Avatar Frontiers of Pandora is absolutely blowing people away with its 300% player increase. Yeah, from like 5 people to 15 people. Yeah, 300% increase, I guess, yes. Probably paid by Ubisoft, because Ubisoft made the game.
New features. But again,
and it was as bad as you would expect Ubisoft to do anything in modern settings.
It's just there's so many different mixed opinions going around surrounding this game right now, and it does feel like the overall gaming community is very mixed on this $10 story DLC or gameplay DLC. I think that's what it's more focused on gameplay pretty much this go around. And as this article coming from The Gamer says, Starfield players aren't loving the smaller Terran Armada DLC, but at least it's cheaper, which I suppose I don't even know if that's a praise, if anything. Many of the negative reviews highlight that they're pleased with the content in the free update, but less so with the paid DLC. Most of the complaints revolve around the short length and how combat-oriented the expansion is, as players were expecting more story. I think after Shattered Space, I said this even in some of my initial videos, maybe some of you remember it, maybe you don't, but I suspected that they were going to be going this route because of what we saw with Fallout 4. The framework of, first you have this story DLC that's extremely heavy with what we saw with Fallout 4 Far Harbor, and then they followed it up with Nuka World, which was gameplay-oriented. And that's what Terran Armada is, although there's definitely some other opinions I have on that I'll share in a separate video. I pre-ordered the $100 version of Starfield specifically for the promised DLC, trusting Bethesda's track record with Elder Scrolls and Fallout games. Now just 3 hours...
Track record? With Elder Scrolls and Fallout games? This was the reason why I didn't buy the DLC, because I trusted Bethesda's track record with these sort of things. What do you mean? That's not a good thing, Chief. What are we talking about? I was just having the time of my life. I was ending it right here, boys. And that sentence was so preposterous I had to stop. Bruv. Like, come on.
Into the Terran Armada DLC, I'm already completely bored. It's so disappointing that I'm seriously considering uninstalling Starfield for good. This will be the last time I ever pre-order a Bethesda game. I give this DLC a 2 out of 10. Man, the parts of this were good, but damn, the overall package was underwhelming. BGS needs to figure out what's going on with their writers, because the writing in this wasn't great. And
give Emil a raise. He deserves it. He has gaslit, probably thought how it's so hot he thinks that the Earth is most likely flat. Well, granted, the average IQ of the people working at Bethesda is probably low. Most of them probably think the Earth is flat.
This is definitely some mixed opinions.
Which, by the way, would be awesome. The Earth is flat and that was a conspiracy is one of the things I actually secretly want to be true. Because that means hollow Earth and all the amazing shit that comes with it would be true. So, the Earth being flat is kind of low-key one of the things that I wish actually was true, because that would be awesome, okay? That would give us so much potential.
And we have not heard, like, the thing is, Bethesda did not give out review codes, at least for Terran Armada, as far as I'm aware. Or if they did, it was right up against launch, so we're not having many Terran Armada-focused reviews coming from...
They did. The Gamer actually did a review that we're going to be checking. And even the Gamer says it's bad.
Outlets, we do have one here from Game Reactor, which gave it a 6 out of 10. New gameplay mechanics have been incorporated into the story. The side quests are superb. The new companion is well written. Too repetitive, generic enemies, lacks a substantial new area. And I think I think I played it for a number of hours. I only saw one different enemy type. That's all they introduced. There's some new gadgets.
The robots, yes. And that is the laziest enemy type you could ever introduce, by the way, because it's just a robot. It has the wire meshes of a human. It's just a reskinned human, effectively.
Just some new weapons and stuff, but yeah, I'm unimpressed. That's my initial thoughts I'll give about that DLC for now. But the bigger concern is that Starfield did come to the PlayStation 5. This was supposed to be another big part of this big moment for the game, and people are upset because the PlayStation 5 version is doo-doo. I mean, that's the best way I can describe it. I'm having flashbacks to Skyrim PS3 days. Starfield PS3 players demand refunds, reporting widespread bugs and glitches that leave the game unplayable.
Expected.
Since launch had over 20 freezes and crashes. Unplayable that is a user thought. This is an article coming from Eurogamer, and they note that on a subreddit thread entitled "Base PS5 Crashing Getting Out of Hand, It's Unplayable," with dozens and dozens of comments. One player noted that they tried all proposed fixes and saved, uninstall and reinstall for last. Now the game won't even load. This is beyond ridiculous. While another wrote, I can't even land on any planets or try to do anything other than sit my ship or game will crash.
To be honest, that's actually good. It saves you a lot of time.
It doesn't seem to matter whether players are using a vanilla PS5 or the PS Pro model, as issues plague both consoles, and it's unclear whether there's a difference in experience between physical disc and digital versions. The thing is, this is just typical Bethesda.
Wait, what do you mean disc versions? There's no such thing as a disc version.
I understand that over the years people like to laugh at this type of stuff, but it really is unacceptable. And then just in the last 6 months, we had the Fallout 4 Anniversary Edition. That was a total disaster. And when Todd Howard was, asked about his thoughts about that, he kind of just deflected. He didn't want to talk about how it was totally broken. And it's embarrassing the fact that they had to release a roadmap for Fallout 4 Anniversary Edition just to deliver fixes. And even now it seems like there's still a lot of issues haunting players to this day, which is unfortunately one of those side effects that carries over with, it feels like, almost every Bethesda experience. There's just players that get left, and at least if you're on...
Wait, you fucking read this one. I really like Bethesda's press conference because it was, for a lack of a better term, tangible. All that stuff looks real. At best, people are just mocking Bethesda, honestly, at this point. At best.
They get left, and at least if you're on PC, modders do the work. They end up creating the fixes themselves. Bethesda has seemingly not yet publicly commented on the issue, but the day one patch doesn't seem to have helped, and Eurogamer did reach out for a comment from Bethesda.
By day one patch, what do they mean? Changing the lighting for a place no one has ever visited in the game?
I'm sure they're going to have some sort of fixes, but who knows how long it'll be until players actually have a smooth experience.
Judging by Bethesda's track record with Starfield, never. Now, they're going to have a patch, but it's never going to be actual, player-friendly as in playable. They're never going to patch it. Starfield, over its existence of 3 years, by the way, already, it's been 3 years, boys, has roughly had the equivalent of, I don't know, 3 patches, 4 patches, something like that. And all of these patches are minor. All of these patches fix like maybe 3 issues total, if lucky. If lucky.
If it ever happens. And like I said, this is a widespread problem happening right now on the Starfield subreddit, people getting downvoted. But please be careful if you're playing Starfield on a base PS5. The game caused my PS5 to completely turn off and turn back on for 5 to 10 minutes.
Nice.
And they said they clean their PS once a month and have a fan to help with airflow, and this still happened. Guess I can't play the game anymore. I'm getting constant failed to create load state or straight up crashes. Another one that got downvoted because, again, this is the Starfield subreddit, not really surprising. Some of these Bethesda people, my God. I just booted up the game since it dropped on PS5. It was working fine, but the first time you go into space and it's teaching you how to fly, the ship messed up. It was doing fine through the first battles, but when it came to go to the pirate hub, right at the beginning of the game, the ship just wouldn't move, which, again, the Bethesda bugs are just, it's mind-boggling that this just continues to happen over and over again with every single release. And many people just find it a-okay. They're so normalized to this behavior from this developer that they don't realize it.
No, it's just Reddit. The lukewarm IQ cesspool.
This is abnormal behavior, just bizarre to me, bizarre. And it's really interesting because there is PlayStation 5 Starfield reviews that have been up, and none of them, most of them don't really mention any of these massive issues that are happening right now. It's just mind-boggling. Like, you see 10 out of 10s. The amount of content in the Starfield PS5 release is so staggering that it would take pages for me to go into all of it. But what really stands out to me is the little quality of life changes Bethesda has made to really push Starfield into a complete experience. Like all these positive reviews, none of them talking about the technical aspect, which seems to be plaguing a widespread of players that are now on the PlayStation 5 playing this game. And there's a couple, I suppose.
Wait, Gaming Bolt, I also saw that they have a review of Starfield. Well, they didn't call it bad in the title, so I'm assuming they said it's great. Ooh.
And there's a couple, I suppose. Like, Starfield offers a solid opportunity for PS5 users to finally experience Bethesda's space adventure. While it still suffers from various technical issues and frequent loading screens, it remains a strong title that is well worth playing. And yeah, Starfield is bigger and better than ever on PS5, but it still crashes against the roadblocks of old. I don't even think that's a criticism of actual crashes. PlayStation Universe, which is the most negative, says it plays as you expect an RPG to play in the sense that the inputs do what you want them to do. Performance also works well enough, particularly for a Bethesda game. Nothing here really about the technical aspect, which is kind of mind-boggling considering the issues that we're seeing players endure right now. Destin Laguerre saying, I heard Starfield was having problems on PS5 and I wanted to test it out for myself. The game crashed on me 6 minutes into the tutorial, and here he has the video.
Nice. Well, to be fair, the game crashing and not letting you finish the tutorial is probably the best thing that could happen to a normal person who wanted to play Starfield.
And there's the infamous crash. Like, the problem is, even on the PlayStation 5, like, while you guys, if you are playing the PlayStation 5, you're enduring that, even on the other, you'll see maybe in some of the footage, there is still some massive FPS drops, massive issues on, like, the Xbox Series X, which I choose to play this on. And this has been a problem since day one. So it's just, these Bethesda experience, the jankiness, it just never goes away. And yeah, the way that people, you know, review these games, they don't really consider it often in the review scores, which is, it's a choice. But yeah, as it goes on, I think it just flat crashed. And he followed this up with another video saying, okay, Starfield on PS5 Pro crashed again, this time about 1 hour in. Settings performance 60, VSync on, PSSR is off. Some were saying this helps. And here's the video. And there's the infamous crash.
You know what? I want someone to explain who's smarter in technology than me, because I don't understand computers. I don't understand any of this. Okay, I'm a finance guy. I understand numbers and shit. Very impressive. I know. Thank you so much for appreciating me. But in any case, I want someone to explain to me, how is this possible that there are people who play games like this on console? It doesn't matter Xbox or PlayStation, because we see this happen constantly. There are some people who have, like, for example, a PS5 Pro, who say that their game ran smooth as butter, no issues, no nothing. And then you have another person who has a PS5 Pro, same specs, same everything, same RTX 500 zero cooling system Omega Pro motherboard, XTR of 590s. Those the same specs, the same random gobbledygook numbers and naming schemes. And their game runs perfectly. And the other guy's game doesn't run at all. It just crashes. How do we have the same specs in a console and one works and the other one doesn't? How do you explain that? You can't use, say, black magic. Professor Snape would not approve.
Yeah, and it goes on and on. I think it crashes to... There you go. It crashes. Okay, that noise is something.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, it gets stuck there. It freezes. But yeah, this is a widespread issue. Many players talking about this. Sadly, I will be putting my PS5 Pro playthrough of Starfield on pause. I love this game. My favorite thing to do is exploration, but the constant crashes are ridiculous. I'm about 10 hours in, and I've had about 7 to 8 game crashes. Disappointed with Bethesda's lack of optimization. And even Digital Foundry, they have their own little discussion about the PlayStation 5 Pro performance, and they acknowledge it's not good. The game's still good, but technical problems...
I'm sorry, did they ironically call the game good? Wow, that's a sin.
Problems still need addressing. It says, while the game remains as fun and atmospheric as ever, the PlayStation 5 code unfortunately suffers from a litany of performance and stability woes, while the PS5 Pro version encounters novel PSSR problems and a confusingly large number of modes and settings. It goes on, it says that unfortunately both PS5 and PS5 Pro crashes somewhat regularly during testing, a phenomenon that didn't affect the Xbox Series release on launch. It was the most polished Bethesda experience to date, which is something that they kind of ran on, even though there were still a variety of technical issues. When crashing, the game locks up and becomes unresponsive, requiring a forced restart at the system level. We observe this behavior across multiple modes and configurations. So there's no obvious suggestion on how to avoid these issues, and pretty much you just have to wait for Bethesda to hopefully fix it. The Xbox Series X version of the game also seems to have regressed technically, with no crashes to speak of, but new stutters in the opening sequence and other demanding scenes. Those stutters is what I experienced during Terran Armada. Maybe I'll have some of the footage on the screen, but I'll definitely have it in my review. It was very annoying in some of the levels. It goes on, they say that the most crucial issue Bethesda has to address are crushing problems like this, where the game basically freezes. And as you can see, the frame rate just totally dips down, and I mean, well, that's a freeze. That's what's happening here. But they do go on to mention that while Starfield remains a fascinating role-playing game that's well worth playing, its technical implementation on PS5 and PS5 Pro has plenty of issues that need addressing. Preventing crashes obviously comes at the start of that list, but the broken VSync toggle, setting changes not persisting, PSSR artifacts, and overall performance deserve attention too. Ultimately, these issues cloud what could have been a definitive late-generation update, and the current version feels like a side grade or even a regression versus the game's initial console outing. And it is worth mentioning that Sony is apparently intervening. They are actually giving out refunds. This is an article.
Oh god, yes, I wanted to hear this because I wasn't sure. because obviously this is a very explicit deal between Xbox and Sony. So, are refunds a thing? I was wondering. Because again, the deal could be there's no refunds, but technically, how do you make no refunds? So, this is actually happening. Starfield Terran Armada is getting refunded on PlayStation. I was hoping for this since I heard that there's bugs. Because when the bugs are this bad, Sony has been known to actually issue refunds. The infamous Cyberpunk 2077 refund. And there was one other one. I forgot its name. It happened a year or two ago at this point, I think. Where Sony also issued refunds because the game was unplayable. But in any case, that's it. If you're playing Starfield, good luck. You're gonna need it. Anyway, that was Legacy Killer HD. 10 out of 10. Bye.